All right, bang, bang. Today is Tuesday, October 29th, Chicago Dog Walk. Guest of the day is, of course, Chief, because it is Tinfoil Tuesday.
Yeah, happy to be here. Kind of got another Halloween creepy horror story history. It's got a lot of things packed into this one.
Yeah, we're like taking the tinfoil all the way back to like the Civil War era.
I don't even know if they had tinfoil back then.
They probably didn't.
Yeah.
How did they heat stuff? Like, how did they, wrap
How
stuff
did
up?
they do anything?
Yeah.
How did anyone live ever?
That's a good way. That's a good question to ask. That's a great question to ask. But before we get into that, I do want to make a call out to Suburban Stoolies. You know, we're always doing stuff in the city, but this Sunday we will be watching the game at Buffalo Wild Wings in Schaumburg.
Yeah, last time was a really good party for the Raider game. The game didn't go so great. Going to have a little bit of a bounce back. All four of us are going to be out in Schaumburg for that game, so come on out to Buffalo Wild Wings. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles, we're going to be playing Philly, so...
Revenge game.
Yeah, revenge game, exactly. So come on out. I know things are tough, but regardless, we will be out there. We'll be hanging out, drinking Miller Lite, having some wings. So, yeah, Miller Lite in 1975. They brewed the first light beer that didn't compromise on taste, and they've been doing it ever since. Miller Lite is the original light beer brewed to have more taste and only 96 calories, and they're available in the slim cans now, Chief. Did you know that?
I like those little slim cans. You can fill those coolers up very easy with the slim can. They're easy to hold, easy to throw around. You're going to toss your buddy a slim can. It's a nice treat.
Definitely. So, yeah, come on out to Buffalo Wild Wings in Schaumburg. The address it's on Meacham Road, 1430 North Meacham Road in Schaumburg. So come on out. It's a noon game. So let's get into Tinfoil Tuesday right now, Chief. Like I said, we're kicking it back to the Civil War era. More importantly, probably a top 5 historical event, maybe, right?
I was wondering that myself. It's definitely, I was going to say, a top 3 assassination ever. So you got Kennedy, Lincoln, and maybe like Julius Caesar. I think those are probably the 3 most famous assassinations. So this one's a big one. Everybody knows the story, right? Like the Civil War's over, the Union and the North win. Washington, D.C. is like, a party town at this point because people are happy with peacetime, the war being over, and they decide to celebrate. So they go out to Ford Theater, take in a show, and Lincoln takes one in the back of the head.
Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald and
John Wilkes Booth.
John Wilkes Booth.
John
Sorry,
Wilkes Booth.
I missed.
Yeah.
I crossed my wires there. But both those guys are like so synonymous with like.
Yeah, that could be a dog walk episode too. All the parallels between the 2 assassinations. It's wild.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right, John Wilkes Booth.
John Wilkes Booth. Did you know that he was like a very, very famous actor at the time?
I didn't until I was reading up on this before we walked.
It'd be like Tom Hanks walking in and kill the president.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He was that famous.
That's what they say. I mean, who knows? It's theater, so it's a little bit different. But that's what they say, that he was a very prominent, well-known actor in that time period.
Okay, so you know the story.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, John Wilkes Booth, he walked into the president's box. He shot him in the back of the head. Yeah. Lincoln died. But what you didn't know is this guy who was with them.
Yeah, so I think part of the story. And part of I think everyone just assumes maybe that Lincoln was in the suite, the box, watching the show by himself with his wife. But he had guests. So they had 2 extra seats. They had invited all types of people, the Speaker of the House, his own son, and then they just had different obligations. So they finally settled on this young couple, Henry Rathbone and his fiancee Clara Harris. Now I don't know how much background you did digging on these 2. Actually, stepbrother and stepsister. Kind of weird. I feel like the 1800s, like anything went. So it was like a situation where one of the parents died. Or both parents died. It was like a Brady Bunch thing, and then they remarried, and the kids were like, well, let's bang.
Yeah, similar. Yeah. No tinfoil. Like, how did they get anything done? Like, how did shit like this happen as well? So.
It was just like normal. And then it's so normal that the President of the United States says, why don't you come, you creepy weirdo brother and sister engaged couple, why don't you come into my suite? But anyway, so they're a young couple. Henry they're from a well-to-do family. So Clara Harris is the woman. Henry Rathbone is the man. He was a major in the Union Army. He was a former lawyer from upstate New York. His stepfather, Clara's father, was a U.S. senator. They're like a socialite, well-to-do family, very connected in Washington, and that was kind of how the invitation came to be. to go to Ford's Theater to take in the show.
Okay, so just kind of just friends of the Lincolns. You know, we're inviting our buddies, the Rathbones. Her name's not Rathbone either.
Hers was Harris.
Harris.
Yeah, at
So
this point.
Rathbone and Harris, they're coming in. They're hanging out in the box.
Yep.
And so
In walks John Wilkes Booth.
yeah. So we just fast forward to the assassination, and this is where Rathbone he kind of got into the middle of the mix, right? He got into a scuffle.
So he sees it. The gunshot happens. It's right, in the box, like probably 6 feet from him or something like that. He jumps up to try to like tackle and wrestle John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth came prepared. He had a big dagger, sliced open Rathbone's arm from like his elbow up his bicep, and that was the end of that. He jumped out of the box. He said his famous saying, and he was eventually captured. But now you're left in this, the box of the theater. You got the dead president. You got Rathbone, who's wounded badly with a nice stabbing, slashing, whatever you want to call it, blood everywhere, and then now like doctors, and it's like a whole scene.
Yeah. So one thing I didn't know about this murder, and I know it's not really about the assassination, but I didn't realize that that John Wilkes Booth actually barricaded the door so no one could get out of the situation.
Yeah, he had I couldn't even understand when I was reading it, but he had a plank of wood and was able to like keep the door shut, and that's kind of why he went out over the stage, because then he couldn't get out either.
Yeah, so I guess it does have something to do with the story, because this guy's bleeding, Rathbone's bleeding his ass off.
Yeah.
And obviously Lincoln is just kind of
Dead.
down. Yeah, he wasn't dead on the scene.
They said that he was fatally wounded by the shot. So,
was he? So right,
yeah. They took him to the hospital, but it was like this.
And like they did the whole thing across the street in the bed, and they thought they had him living for a little bit. Maybe not. Whatever.
Yeah.
So so this is barricaded. I did not realize it. Like I said, that this was barricaded. But regardless, so Rathbone, he witnesses this assassination, and then his life kind of changes for the worse
forever. Yeah. So and it goes deeper than that. They kind of become, now you have this bloody scene. They eventually get that door open. The doctor sees Rathbone bleeding out and sees the president, and they're like, "Hey, Rathbone, you're fine. We're gonna attend to the president." They take him to a hospital. Rathbone still like summons the strength to bring Mary Todd Lincoln and his wife to the hospital. And Mary Todd Lincoln is like hysterical. She looks over at Clara Harris, Rathbone's fiance. She's got blood all over her. Some of it's probably Lincoln. Some of it's probably Rathbone's from the knife wound. It's like a whole bloody horror scene. Like think of like Jacqueline Kennedy, where she's in the back of the limousine covered in blood. Okay, so it's like the same sort of situation. And they go to the hospital, and Mary Todd Lincoln screaming about, "Oh, my husband's blood's on your dress. My husband's blood's on your dress." And Lincoln's dead. Things settle down. The family then the Rathbones then go back to Albany, New York, where they're from. So the Rathbone's still in the military at this point. He eventually raises to the rank of colonel. So he's like an accomplished military personality. They get married 3 years later. But Clara Harris never washes the dress. It's got blood all over it. It's a white satin dress. She can't bring herself to burn it. Doesn't do anything with it, just kind of tucks it in the closet in their house in Albany and just lets it be. And then she starts having like visions of ghosts. So she sees Lincoln, she hears laughter, like a muted laughter coming from the closet, and it freaks her out to the point that she still doesn't get rid of the dress, but she bricks up the closet. So it's like nobody's going in there. They got a closet in their home that's just, you open the door and it's just a wall of bricks.
Wow, that's extreme. That's
extreme.
Like another thing, like nowadays, maybe just throw a chair in front of it.
Yeah,
she's just straight bricking that thing up.
Take it down the street to the dry cleaner. Do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like a weird story, and she kind of dismissed it, like the visions and the laughter, until she had a friend hear the same thing. And now she's like, all right, this is fucked. But that's when she put the bricks up, was when the friend was hearing the same laughter. So,
and this was at her house?
This is at their house in Albany.
Okay.
So they went back to Albany. They had this closet in their home, and they just bricked it off, because now they're having ghosts and all kinds of different things that they're hearing, that she gets freaked out.
Okay, so she's starting to kind of lose it, or she really is having paranormal situations. Who knows?
Yeah. But she's having visions of Lincoln and then a woman in a bloody dress.
Okay.
So
not great.
Not great.
No,
not great.
Not definitely not what you want.
Right. And at the same time, her husband is losing it. So obviously the whole thing, he was in the assassination. You know, wrestled John, well, everything we just said. But he's also a Civil War veteran. And it wasn't just like he was a well-to-do guy who wasn't in the fray. He had like some severe PTSD. He was in the Battle of Antietam, the Battle of Fredericksburg. Like he was in the shit. So he's, you know, having a hard time in his life. Can't hold down a job. Starts kind of like drinking to, you know, medicate himself. He develops a gambling addiction. He's supposedly running around on his now wife. Like the guy is a fucking mess.
Yeah, so a lot of problems now. So Rathbone is actually like having real life things. Like she was
Yeah.
just having, you know, paranormal experience, like you said, but Rathbone's like actually seems like he's starting to crack. He's starting to have some mental issues.
Yeah, and it's, you know, he's become a celebrity of sorts for all the wrong reasons. Every year around the time of the assassination, which was in the spring, it was April 14th, the press is calling him up, asking him, you know, hey, can we get a story? Can we get a story? And he would do it, and he'd have to like relive the whole night over and over and over. And he began to like really blame himself and felt tremendous guilt for not being able to stop this assassination.
Really?
Yeah. So it was like a whole problem for him. And then, you know, every time, because it's like, oh, that's the guy who was in the booth with Lincoln. So everywhere they would go, and Clara Harris has a quote that's on the record about this. She goes, I understand his distress. In every hotel, as soon as we arrive, people get wind of our presence. We feel ourselves the object of morbid scrutiny. Whenever we were in the dining room, we began to feel like zoo animals. Henry imagines that the whispering is more pointed and malicious than it possibly can be. So Henry's like, that person's talking about me. That person's calling me a coward. That person is blaming me for Lincoln's death. Like all these sorts of things are going on in his head, and he thinks like everybody is like
Out to get him.
and like blaming him, and he, you know how you walk in a room, sometimes you can feel people's eyes on you.
Yeah.
And it's like a very uncomfortable feeling. It sounds like that was everywhere he went.
That's tough.
Very tough. Tough thing to live with, the guilt, you know, on its own. Plus now you're almost kind of ostracized, maybe not overtly by the people, but in your head you're being ostracized by those people.
Yeah, he's like almost like a zoo animal, like everywhere he goes. Like
Exactly.
yeah.
That's what exactly. It's a perfect way to say it. And so now he's losing it even more. And like we said, he can't hold down a job. So he's got like, man, like my life's going nowhere. I got these kids, I got this guilt, I got the wife. He begins to convince himself that the wife, Clara, is cheating on him. Like questions her all the time, you know, threatens to kill her if she divorces him. So now, you know, this is now 1870s, right? And she's got the 3 kids, she's got the crazy husband, she's got Lincoln's ghost, and can't divorce him because you don't get divorced back then. That like brings unbelievable shame. So not only are you like have the threat of physical violence against you, but you also have the shame that would come with filing for a divorce.
Crazy. Another crazy thing. Like just so many things in this time that could have been like solved. Like if they live
Thank
now.
God we live now.
I know, right?
You know, everybody says how terrible it is now. Now is sweet. Now is the best time ever.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. That guy never gets to that box if this never happens.
Never happens. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
He gets taken down like 7 different times before he even
Yeah.
gets there. So now, but again, they're still from a well-to-do family. So this guy can't hold down a job. It's like, all right, just give him a job as a ambassador over in Germany. So they kind of make him a diplomat, like, you know, get this guy out of here, give him something to do, some kind of fake job, and they send him, his wife, the whole family over to Hanover. You know, they're thinking that maybe that would make things better.
Change of scenery.
Change the scenery.
He's not known for that situation as much there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, you know, it's like you can almost live anonymously because while people might know the story in Germany, they're not speaking English to you. You can kind of be an anonymous person, and you're not going to walk into a room like we said and like Clara Harris said and feel like a zoo animal. Good thinking. Didn't work. Okay. Too far gone.
Oh, no.
So now it's Christmas time, 1882, and he walks in a fit of rage and wants to kill his children because he had become jealous of the attention that his children would get from his wife. The guy is like a lunatic, okay, and decides to kill his children, and his Clara, the wife, tries to intercede along with the groundskeeper, and he shoots Clara and stabs her until she dies. So
Wow.
kills the wife. The groundskeeper like ushers the children away, and he ends up stabbing himself 5 more times in a suicide attempt, but doesn't die. So the police arrive, and they're like, this guy's clearly insane. He's talking about, there's people behind the paintings on the wall. He's hearing voices from behind the paintings. He's like an insane person. So they arrest him. They charge him with murder in Germany, and they get him before a judge, and the judge is just like, he's clinically insane. So that was the end of that. They spent the rest of his life in an insane asylum until he died in 1911. The son, their oldest son, went back to Albany and tore down the bricks and burned that dress with Lincoln's blood and Rathbone's blood on it to try to like rid their family of the curse from that dress, because he believed that the dress and the blood that had been kept behind that bricked closet was like the root of all of this.
Holy shit! Is that house like historic now? I wonder, like in Albany. I wonder if that's like
I don't know if you can go there anymore. I know that you can go see the dagger. John Wilkes Booth dagger is still it's like there's a picture of it on the Wikipedia page. You can see that. They talked about how even though Rathbone killed his wife, they still buried him next to her after he died in 1911, but they exhumed the tomb, okay, to like quote unquote make room for new dead bodies, and because nobody was visiting it, I guess that's a policy, and they like cremated him and like threw the ashes away. Like it was like a bizarre story.
Even his wife's too. Did they exhume her?
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, so they just dug it up, cremated. See you later.
That'd be interesting how that works.
Yeah, so all the ghosts are dead. Although everything's burned, everything's gone from that one. But this sounds like The Shining to me.
Yeah, the Amityville Horror, it sounds like too.
Yeah.
Where they just lose it because the house, the dress, whatever.
Right.
There's parallels there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I mean, listen. I bet if you're listening, I bet you knew about John Wilkes Booth, but I bet you didn't know about Henry Rathbone.
Henry Rathbone, fucking crazy person. Like, didn't they make that Lincoln Vampire Slayer movie a couple years ago? That's that terrible movie. Remember hearing about that?
Yes, I do.
They should just have made this as the horror movie.
For real.
That would be like an awesome horror movie.
For real.
So,
is it developing anywhere? Like, someone's got to have the rights to this, right?
Can we?
Yeah.
Can you just call dibs on
should.
a movie?
Is
that legal?
You got to write like a 20-page treatment, and then you got to like submit it to the Writers Guild. So
Ed, let's get to work.
Yeah, let's do it. We don't have enough to write as it is. So let's write a
We'll do it as a blog series.
Let's write a script. Yeah, but that's Tinfoil Tuesday for today, Chief. That was a good one.
All right, yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so that's it for today, everybody. We will catch you tomorrow.